Good morning. Thank you very much for joining. We are just expecting a few more people to join. So in the meantime, feel free to have a little chat, comment. What we'll tend to do at the end is if we've got any questions, we've got enough time, we'll just go through what's possible to do. Anything we can't answer, then we can kind of reach out a bit later on. If you've got a drink, grab yourself a drink and just sit down and get ready. Thank you. Right, I think that's pretty much everyone. A few people might kind of join on a bit later on. So if you're ready to start, let's get stuck into it.
Yeah, awesome. So we will actually be recording this too. So if you have to drop off any point or you want to watch it back later, we'll share the recording around. It probably is going to be linked to this events page on LinkedIn. But yeah, just thought I'd mention that right at the start. So in today's session, we are going to be auditing an Amazon listing live, where we take an underperforming Amazon listing, break it down element by element, explain what's wrong, why it's a particularly bad listing. Chris is then going to walk through the changes that we would make. He's going to explain why we'd make them, why the element is important to optimize, and the benefit that those changes would have. And then towards the end, we're going to show the current listing, the old listing, and our improved listing side by side, just so you can see exactly how the changes that we're suggesting would look on the page and why those changes would sort of improve that listing's performance. So just before we get into it, a little bit about us. We are Journey Further, a performance marketing agency based in Leeds, London, Manchester, and soon to be the US. So when it comes to marketplaces, we help you launch, build, and grow on Amazon and other key domestic and international marketplaces. So I'm Harry, one of our marketplace managers. I've been at Journey Further for about 2 years now, and I'm joined by Chris, our head of marketplaces.
Yeah, so I'm Chris. I've been working on marketplaces for roughly about 11 years in total, predominantly eBay, Amazon. I've managed over £100 million in product sales, tens of £1 million in ad sales, and across a whole plethora of different categories.
Awesome. So in terms of what we'll actually be covering, like I said, we're going to jump into a particularly poor underperforming listing, and we're going to be reviewing all of the key listing elements. So the title, the listing setup options, the images, both the content of those images and the order of them, the product price. So we're going to look at that price compared to the competition, as well as compared to other products, similar products that retailer sells, bullet points, the product description, any A+ content or enhanced brand content, if there is any, the store, again, if there is any frequently asked questions that we keep seeing asked on the listing. We'll also look at the reviews. And then towards the end, we will have a question and answer session. So if you've got any questions as we're going along, just drop them down in the comments, and towards the end, we'll answer those. So a conversation that we quite often find ourselves having with brands that aren't currently selling on Amazon is that, well, we don't want to sell on Amazon because it's going to cheapen our brand, or we don't want to sell on Amazon because it's going to open ourselves up to competition from other Amazon sellers or potentially Amazon themselves. You know, they've got quite a big reputation for stealing people's products. But what we actually find is that if you're a bigger retailer, especially in the fashion industry or personal care, and you're working with traditional retailers and third-party sellers, what you're going to find is that it's probably quite likely that someone's already selling your product on Amazon. And so by not being there yourselves, you're losing the ability to protect your customer experience, your brand reputation. And as the example we're going to show you in a few minutes, this is potentially going to really harm your brand. And so being on Amazon, even if your business doesn't view it as a growth channel, just being there for the purpose of protecting your brand is a really strong advantage to have. So the listing that we're going to cover is this one here. It's a razor sold by Harry's. So Harry's is a pretty big razor brand. No connection to me, unfortunately, but they're a pretty big razor brand who don't currently sell on Amazon themselves. So there's lots of different small third-party retailers and resellers competing for the buy box on a lot of their products, but they themselves as a brand aren't selling on Amazon. So if I just flick over here, this is the current listing. And what I'm going to do is basically just walk you through the listing, explain my first impressions, what is currently lacking from that listing. And then we're going to go item by item and look at how we would actually optimize that ourselves. So the first thing that I notice when I look at this listing is how much white space there is. So all of this white space here on the listing is currently not being filled. And as a consumer, there is not much at first glance on this listing that's really convincing me to buy. So traditionally, in almost every Amazon listing, you're going to have up to 5 bullet points here, which is a space where you can really sell your product to the consumer right from the get-go. This listing has no bullet points whatsoever, so that's immediately a red flag. Another big problem that I can see right off the bat is this title here. So unless you know what Harry's is as a brand and you've heard of them before, there isn't anything in this title that's really convincing me to, well, first of all, click on the listing. So when I'm scrolling through loads of razors listings and I'm seeing the likes of Gillette, there's nothing in this title that's really convincing me to click. All it's saying is the brand name, the product, and the color. But there are no features, there's no benefits, there's nothing really interesting in here. It's also not taking up much room on the screen. So considering that we've got no bullet points here, the second thing that I'd look to is the title. This title, like I said, is really unoptimized, really short, and another really big red flag. So the next thing on the first view of the listing here is the images. So we've only got 3 images, which is less than you have available. So they're not making use of all the images that we could get in there. There's no video. So a video is a really good way, especially when you've got the kind of brand assets that Harry's do. A video is a really good way to sell that product in a way that a lot of other listings aren't. So that's not there. There's also no lifestyle imagery. It's literally just a picture of the box, picture of what's inside the box, and then the products without the box. So that's another area that we'd hopefully look to optimize too. So I guess the next thing here, again, just on the first view, as a consumer, I've gone onto this listing. The first thing I see is obviously the price. Amazon particularly is a very price-focused marketplace, especially from a consumer perspective. I tend to be looking for the cheapest product, or at least personally, that's kind of how I shop on Amazon. Is I'm looking for the cheapest product. I'm looking for a bargain. That's the biggest advantage that Amazon has to me, is that I have the ability to shop lots of competitors, which I don't do in a single store. So this price here, nearly £18, is very high. And when you compare it to the same product on Harry's own website, this here, the Truman razor, just by itself is only £8. And they also have a set for £14, which includes the razor, shaving gel or shaving foam, whatever you prefer, a carry case, like a protective cover for when you're carrying a razor around. And this listing here obviously comes in at more expensive than both of those. Yeah, it is just the razor by itself. So right off the bat, the price is really unappealing to me as a consumer. And one of the reasons for this price is that there are quite a few different, we can see here that there's 6 or 7 different sellers selling the product, and they all set their own prices. They're all competing for the buy box. And so throughout the day, throughout the week, depending on who's selling the listing, how much stock they have, this price can change quite drastically. But right now, the price is significantly higher than the same product on Harry's website, as well as the competition. So a lot of the competition are pricing their razors about £8, £9, £10. This one significantly higher. So that's another red flag right off the bat. So if we just keep going down the listing here, I'll just sort of call things out as I see them. So here we've obviously got more items to explore, and then the sponsored section. We keep going down here, we have the product description. So this description is in French. So it's probably been pulled from a product feed, maybe from Amazon.fr, or maybe from a French version of Harry's website. I'm shopping on Amazon.co.uk. I, like most people shopping on Amazon.co.uk, don't speak French. And so this description here is useless. In fact, it's worse than useless, because I now look at it and have no idea anything. Like, I've got no idea what's going on with this product. It's also, besides the fact that it's in French, it's a very small description. It's not formatted particularly nicely. It's not taking up a lot of room. And while I'm looking at this description, I'm also seeing these competing products that Amazon's advertising to me. And these competing products have more reviews. They have a better score. They're much cheaper. Their product title is significantly better right off the bat than ours, which again is just the brand name and the fact that it's a blue razor. And so overall, what we're seeing so far is that this is a really weak listing, but behind a really strong brand, which is quite unfortunate to see, because when you have such a strong brand like Harry's, you have the foundations to really dominate this side of Amazon, this category. So keep scrolling down here. Again, we've got these similar items. We've got more technical details about the product, kind of irrelevant for this product. So this section here is always one to look at. It's where customers can ask questions and be answered by the seller or other people, other consumers on Amazon. And so what you'll sometimes find is that your product listing isn't descriptive enough, and people will naturally have the same types of questions. And so this area, the frequently asked questions, is a really good area to look at as a seller. It can help you to identify missing pieces of information that you could be building into your listing. So this listing here doesn't actually have any, so we'll just keep going. We've got the reviews. So the score overall is actually quite good. We've got 4.5 out of 5. We've got more than 500 reviews. It's quite a strong listing review-wise. But what you'll find, and this comes back to my point earlier about brands that aren't on Amazon, but their products are still being sold, the customer experience can often be significantly lower simply based on the fact that you don't have control of that listing, and you've got lots of third parties potentially without authorization selling your product on Amazon. So these reviews here, the first one, don't buy, it's fake. On the picture, it's showing an extra blade, but I received only the razor with its own blade. That makes me think the item I bought is fake. The next one that we've got here, overpriced, no extra blades. The picture showed an extra blade. Why have I paid £18 for a product? For a product, there's £8 from Boots. So those first two reviews, even though they are the minority, they are what's shown to me first. They're the top reviews, and they are basically telling us that the expectations of the consumer don't match what the listing is selling them. So if we go right back up to the top here, just looking at the imagery, this picture here is insinuating that it comes with an extra razor or an extra set of blades. In fact, what this review is telling us is that it doesn't. It may be that, again, lots of different third parties competing for the buy box. Some of them are selling it with an extra razor, some of them are selling it without. But regardless, there are some consumers who are having a really poor experience of the Harry's brand. Potentially, they're never going to buy from Harry's again, all because of a mismatch in expectations, because this listing isn't clear enough, isn't optimized enough. So yeah, those are just my first thoughts when I'm looking at this listing. What we're going to do now is we're going to hop back into here, and Chris is going to walk through the changes that we'd make to the listing and explain why those changes will help combat some of the issues that I've just mentioned.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Harry. So what we'll do is at the end of this, we'll kind of show a side-by-side as well, so you can kind of see the changes in real time. So pretty much going over what Harry said, but going into a bit more detail of what changes we'd make. So the first thing that we'd look to do is on the old title, you've just got the brand name and the product and the color. So with the new title, what we'll do is we'll use the brand name, the product, and then we'll start calling out some of the features as kind of like a first step. So brand name, Harry's, product, razor blade and handle. And then some of the features we've got is a 5-blade cartridge, flexible hinge, and precision shaving trimmer. What we'll then do is when we're building out these titles, and what we tend to do with the bullet points in the description, is we'll kind of ask ourselves, why is that a good thing? So the 5-blade cartridge, the flexible hinge, the precision shaver, why is that a good thing? Well, it helps to reduce nicks and cuts on sensitive skin. Okay, why is that a good thing? Because it reaches those hard to get places with ease. So that's kind of our methodology behind building the titles. We'll keep on asking, and with the description and the bullet pointers, keep on asking ourselves, why is that a good thing? And if we can't answer that question, then it probably shouldn't be in there. So what we'll do is we'll use Amazon itself, we'll use third-party software, and what we'll do is we'll build a kind of a master keyword list, and within that master keyword list, we'll have individual keywords and we'll have keyword phrases. So although Harry's is, well, it's a relatively new product on here and it's a relatively poor product, one thing that it has got an advantage for is using competitor data. So we'll put in a competitor race in, we'll be able to get all the keywords that they rank for. And then once we get them keywords, then we can kind of start building these into the title. So you can see the keywords that we're going for on the left, and they kind of match the color coding and the new title on the right. So main keywords, razor, shaving, blade, handle set, trimmer, and then we've got some keyword phrases as well, which are razor blade, men's razor blade, 5-blade, and sensitive skin. So you can see kind of from the left-hand side, you can see how we've moved them into the right-hand side, but also making sure that one, that the Amazon algorithm can actually read the title, and two, when a potential customer, consumer is reading the title as well, it all kind of makes sense. So we've got those features, we've got the advantages, we've got the benefits, and then we've also got the keywords in there. So the old images were on the left. So there's a few things with the images. One, which Harry already covered, there's not enough images. So ideally, we're looking for a combination of images and videos, ideally a minimum of 7. We've pulled over some images from the Harry's website. So checking through them on the Harry's website, you can see there's a massive difference in the quality. This is kind of our first iteration of it, and you'll see why as we go a bit further on. The images aren't the best, so we're looking to kind of take up some more space. And when you kind of look into the images, the old images, they're not actually the correct sizing either. So it's a minimum of 1,000 pixels on the shortest side, which none of these fall within. So that was kind of a big issue as well. So what we tend to find is that a lot of companies will have kind of set it up Amazon before or set up a marketplace before, and they just kind of don't do anything with it, or they're not putting enough into it. So you kind of need to show it a bit of love. So this is kind of one of our favorite ethos, journey further. Why your output will be defined by your input. So if you don't put enough in, you're not going to get enough out. And just a simple. So moving on to the bullet points, as you can see before this, there wasn't actually any bullet points on the original one. What we wanted to do was first, we'd kind of build out all the features. So we put a list together. We started writing down all the main features. So information about the blade, information about the trimmer, design, lubrications, strip, the handle, and then we pulled in more information as well. And we ended up with about 8 to 9 different bullet points. And then from them, we whittled it down to 5. And then we'll start writing like a small amount of copy for each one. So this is kind of our first iteration of it. We'll start building these out. And then once we've built out the bullet points, then we'll use that similar keyword data that we pulled from competitors and any other information we can pull. And we'll kind of feed that into these bullet points. So again, we're aiming, one, we build the bullet points with the consumer in mind to start with. And then we'll look to add in the keywords later. And what you'll tend to find is if you're already kind of building these bullet points, you'll find a lot of them, the main keywords automatically fall in anyway, because you're already thinking about what the consumer is going to be typing in. So again, we already covered the old description in French, and it's not so much what's in there, it's kind of the way it's formatted as well. So whenever you look at this, although this looks relatively easy to see on the page when you're on an Amazon listing or when you're on a mobile, which the vast majority of traffic is coming through mobiles now, it is actually really, really hard to read. So what we did is we wanted to change the format, we wanted to change the kind of way that someone would view it. So on this particular one here, although it might be quite hard to read, you can see we've kind of broken it down into different sections. So one, going into information about the product, so features, advantages, benefits, what you actually get within the contents of the box. So as we could see before on the reviews, people were not happy that it didn't actually include the right products. So we've broken that down. We've got ingredients. So for the precision trimmer and the lubrication strip, we've actually broke down those ingredients just in case anyone's got a specific allergic reaction or something. Anything around hazardous, because obviously it's a razor blade, so we want to put that in. And the final one is just like a small blurb about what Harry's is. So what we'd be able to do after that is that when it comes to building any A+ content, we can kind of bulk this out as well. So we went through the category, so the razor blade category, and we pulled out possibly the best-selling similar product within that category, which this time it was a Gillette razor. So this is the version of A+, which is okay. One thing that we really loved about it was the comparison table at the bottom. Huge fan of comparison tables. So it shows you the difference between this product on the far left-hand side and similar products within the same company range. So it'll break down things like how many blades the razor has, what the handle's made out of, how often you're meant to change them. So you can kind of use a bit of artistic license to kind of show the similarities and the differences between the products. And then these tend to be clickable as well if the product's active. So it enables kind of like a form of cross promotion. So there's that many different adverts on your product page that it's quite easy for someone to click off and to go onto another page, competitor page. So we're trying to keep everyone within this page. So what we managed to do is we managed to just mock up a quick version of this using Photoshop. And you can kind of see this is on the far left-hand side. This is the product here. These are all the comparable products. These are the differences you get between them. This is just a very quick version that we managed to pull together. So it just gives a bit more information and a few extra selling points.
Cool. So we have taken all of those elements that Chris has just talked about and we've put them into an actual listing so that we can go through side by side and you can see as a consumer what you would actually see if you sort of implemented these changes. So if I just flick over to this tab here, so this is the new listing. This is the listing with all the changes that we'd recommend, and this is the old listing. So what I'm going to do is go through this listing, explain why all of these elements work, why they're going to optimize your listing, and just give you the chance to actually visually see these changes too. So the first one here is obviously the title. So previously our title's really short. It's basically just got the brand and the product name in there. And so if I don't know Harry's, there's nothing really incentivizing me to click. It's also not taking up that much room on my screen. It's not really catching my eye because it's just so short. So what we've got here, we've got the advanced or the improved title. Not only does it have the brand name there, so if people do know the brand, it's a reason to click on, but it's also telling us that it's got a 5-blade cartridge, it's got a flexible hinge, it's got precision shaving trimmer. That's going to help us to reduce nicks and cuts, and it's going to help us reach hard to get places. So instantly, if I'm scrolling down Amazon, if I'm scrolling down a list of competing products, this is giving me more of a reason to click than the previous listing. So the next thing we've got here is the price. We would recommend lowering the price in line with the website. That's going to match your expectations as a consumer about what you're buying. If you see this listing, here at 18, 17 pounds, you're going to assume that it's coming with more than the razor. You're going to think, looking at this image, it's coming with extra blades or it's coming with a set, as they sell on the website for a similar price. So we would recommend just lowering the price there. Much more competitive when you're scrolling down the list and seeing all the other competitors around the same price too. The next thing here is that we've incorporated some of the extra color options that they have. So obviously buying a razor, the color of it is less of a consideration as opposed to buying a car or a phone or something like that. But giving the consumer more choice, especially when that choice is already there, it's just not on the listing, is always going to be a good thing. So previously, the listing was just a single listing. It was only selling the navy blue razor. But we know, looking at their website, that they sell a blue version, an orange version, and a green version. And so there's no reason not to include those on the listing. It's just giving people more options. It's just making it more likely that they're going to want to buy. Again, realistically, when you're selling a razor, the color of it is less of a consideration, but for some people, who knows, it may be. So the next thing we've got here is the bullet points. So previously, where this entire space was white, just due to lack of bullet points completely, we've now added in our 5 top bullet points. So we've got the sort of main features. Like Chris said, we started off with a list of 8 or 9 key features, whittled it down to 5. And now right off the bat, we're instantly selling this product. We're explaining that it's got 5 blades. It's got a really precise German engineered design. It's got a rubberized handle that helps you get a really clean cut. It's got a lubricating strip. It's got all of these features in here, in these bullet points, that before most listings that we look at, they would have bullet points, but they'd just be pretty unoptimized. This listing didn't have any, so it's like an easy win. Just getting those in there is more space that you're taking up, more reason for that consumer to convert, but also more content on that page to help Amazon understand which search terms that this product is relevant for. So that's another big consideration. The next thing here is the images. So we've just mocked up this listing, so we weren't able to get our newer images in here, but obviously we would recommend having a mixture of the product images, the lifestyle images, and that video. So Harry's on their website already have, if I flick to here, they already have a video showing the product in use, showing the shave, and that's free content that we can use on the listing, and it's going to help us stand out, especially if we're running any sort of paid ads as well. We'll be able to reuse that content and those videos on those ads too, which is going to perform really, really well. So just scrolling down, the next thing we have here is the product description. So again, before it was a single paragraph in French, completely confusing me as an English consumer. I had no idea what came with the product, any of the ingredients, anything about Harry's as a brand. And so this new description, not only does it have more content, not only is it more optimized for search and for a consumer conversion point of view, but it's also formatted a lot better, so it takes up much more of my eyesight. And again, previously on this listing here, as I scroll down, as I'm reading this description, also in view at the same time as me being confused about why this is French, are these competing products that stand out because they are cheaper, they do have better reviews, they do have better titles. And so what we've tried to do here is format it. Again, when it comes to product descriptions, you're limited in terms of what formatting you can use, but we've got paragraphs, we've got some bold text here, just helps it stand out a little bit. So like Chris said, we've got the content built in here, clearly stating what does and what doesn't come with the product, so that there aren't going to be any negative reviews, there aren't going to be any complaints saying, why does the image have an extra razor end and the product doesn't come with one? I'm never buying from Harry's again. Why would I buy this product for so much money when the exact same product is cheaper on one of your other retail partners? So that's a really important part of the contents, is actually matching the expectations of the consumer, explaining what they're going to buy, so that you have less of those negative experiences. So what we also have in here is our A+ content. As Chris showed, we'd sort of mocked this up. So right at the top here, we've got sort of 3 hero images. We're talking about the increased control from the grip, the 5 German blades, the lubricating strip, the precision trimmer. And we're also talking about the fact that you can take your pick. You can pick the color that suits your style and your personality best. So just taking up more room, keeping people on the page for longer. And then what we have here is a comparison table. So we're comparing this Truman blade, which is their cheapest blade. We're comparing it against all of their other products, explaining the different materials that you get with them, the different blades, the fact that they are all ergonomic. And what we would also be able to do as we test this and iterate this A+ content, we'd also be able to build in, so these are sort of products that you'd buy instead of the Truman. What we can also build in is supplementary products or complementary products where you might buy them together. So you might buy a shaving cream or a shaving gel or a carry case, a protective case, or just the set as a whole. So in future versions of this, we may also be able to incorporate that into the listing too. So this listing, hopefully you can sort of see the changes that we've made, why we've made them, and why this is such a better experience as a consumer, and makes me much more likely to buy it than the previous listing, because there's so much more content in there. It's explaining the selling points, the benefits. It's telling me why they're important to me. I've got more choice. I've got different colors. I've got a lower price. That's instantly going to make me, as a price-focused consumer, much more likely to buy. And from a brand perspective, as Harry's, the brand that is not selling on Amazon themselves, this is going to give me, as the brand, a much stronger control over the brand message, the brand quality, and the user experience that these customers get out of buying from me on Amazon. Because even if I'm not selling myself, someone else is going to be in a lot of cases. And so even if you don't view Amazon as a growth channel, just simply being on here is a good idea. So yeah, that's the listing side by side. Again, looking at this listing at the top, loads of white space. It's such a shame to see a listing like this, because Harry's is such a strong brand, and they have the listing isn't even performing poorly. But by optimizing this listing, you're really going to launch into sort of like an extra tier that previously they just hadn't seen. So that's the listing side by side.
Yeah, so just to cover this is a kind of another one that we always get with brands, is that they might have just set this up. So usually there's a person within the company who has sold something on eBay before, they've sold something on Amazon before, and then they'll set the product up and then they'll just forget about it. And then what they might find is quite a few sales start trickling through, and then all of a sudden it just starts dropping off. So a big ethos of ours really is kind of always testing. So kind of building out new versions whenever possible, A/B testing, whether that be on page or using specific programs to kind of test the market without making any changes. So it's one of those things where if you are doing this yourself, you should always be testing. So 5 kind of key insights for improving your Amazon listings that we've kind of covered. One is you should always be asking, why is that a good thing? So this is the product, why is that a good thing? This is a feature, why is this a good thing? What we tend to see as well is that a 15 reviews for a product is kind of the tipping point, and that's when we kind of see like an extra surge with the product itself. When you do start getting reviews, it's really important to start reviewing the feedback that you get from the customers, whether it be good or bad, to see if you can kind of make any improvements on the product, or maybe the product is being used for a different intended use, and you can start pulling them keywords into the actual product itself. Start with a list of all your main selling points. So when it comes to bullet points or descriptions, whatever it may be, start with a full list of your selling points and kind of build that out. And then kind of the final one as well is when you are running your bullet points, is that your first, your fifth, and your third, I should say, bullet points tend to be the most important, because people will kind of look at the first one, look at the end one. And what we tend to find now as well with mobile is that people look at the first one, and then you might only be able to see 3, so they'll look at the third one. So these kind of are going to be your main ones, so your first, your fifth, and your third.
Amazing. So this has been a relatively quick view at the sort of audit that we might produce when you have a listing already on Amazon. In terms of replicating this on your own audit, on your own account and your own listings, if you're interested in getting a much more in-depth audit, that's something that we can help you with. So for no obligation, completely free, we can produce this kind of audit, but in much more detail, looking at not just your listings themselves, but the advertising set behind them, your competitors, gaps in your market in terms of the products that you're selling on Amazon, all that kind of stuff we can produce in a much more detailed audit for free. And so if this is something that you're interested in, again, absolutely free, no obligation. We will have the link to this in the description. Or if you just want to type it into your browser, it's just journeyfurther.com/discovery/marketplaces. So yeah, if there are any questions, let us know in the comments and we'll get to answering them. I think there's probably a little bit of a delay on here, so it might take a few seconds for them to come through. But yeah, any questions, fire away.
So yeah, while we're just waiting to see if anything does come through, as Harry's already pretty much covered, we do help various marketplace sellers either launch, build, or grow their marketplaces. So this one was specific to Amazon, but we do help companies with eBay, Etsy, Groupon, various multiple things. So, and not just the UK as well, we also work internationally. So if you do want any kind of audit or you want any help or anything, just get in touch. Link should be in the chat, which I think Nathan has already done. So that's perfect. Right, I don't think anything's coming through. So just want to say thank you very much. Thank you very much for turning up today. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions, just drop us a message via the chat or get in contact, whatever means best for you. Thank you very much. That's goodbye from me.
And from me.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.